Will Bitcoin ever go to like $1 billion or $100 million? Will the Satoshi ever be on par with the USD? Not for probably a very long time. It takes a couple of things. The USD would have to collapse completely for that to happen, more than likely, and they're going to just keep importing cheap labor to prop up the USD. So it's probably not going to go anywhere anytime soon. I'd like to see it happen, but I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think we're going to get that dose of reality yet. Again, I could be wrong, but I don't think it's the case. The other side is that the energy companies would have to start saying, okay, hey, listen, in order to pay us for energy, you need to pay us in a hard currency, like Bitcoin or gold or whatever. Something that has either mathematical or intrinsic value to it. The USD has neither mathematical nor intrinsic value. Ever since 1971, it is pure borrowed time. That really is it. The USD is an inevitable shit coin, right? It has no, there's nothing really supporting any of it other than the threat of violence by the military, the pink-haired people, right? And yeah, you can use force, I suppose, but that runs out too. Force runs out too. Keep in mind, U.S. military got its ass handed to it by Vietnam and couldn't hold Baghdad. So I'm not picking on military people. I mean, like, it's the truth. It really is the truth. Unless you're willing to go full on, I don't know if I can say genocide on TikTok or not. Anyway, but unless you're willing to do something like that, and of course, then where do you get your slaves from? Right? If you wipe them all out, where do you get your slaves from? This is the problem with human farming. And it's the problem with running giant Ponzi schemes like currency scams, like the US dollar and others. It's not just the USD. I'm just picking on the USD because it's close to home. But every one of these other currencies, the yuan, the rupee, the ruble, all of it, they all fit this category. The euro, the yen, the pound, all of these currencies basically fit in the same category. They're all fake, and it's just a bunch of fake billionaires running around all over the world trying to prop up their different scams and using everybody else's pawns. So now there's this argument that thinks that all the pawns are going to have this awakening, and they're going to get rid of all their fake billionaires and political leaders, and that's not going to happen. That's not how people operate. People are always going to look they're going to look for a leader. They're always going to look for a leader. This is part of your DNA. You are always going to look for a leader unless you are a leader. And most leaders don't start off that way. They start off kind of learning, and then they eventually, so in my case, for example, I realized all of you, dude, everybody out here, you guys are all screwed. None of you are worth following. So therefore, I'm by default going to go and lead some other direction away from you folks. And that's what ends up happening. That's how the founders did it. They're like, dude, we have nothing in common with you people, so we're gonna go do our own thing. That's the reality. So people are always going to be looking to leaders. It's like I said, that's why people always search for God. It's why people always do that kind of stuff. So it's not a bad thing. I'm just pointing out that is a natural part of the human condition. It's part of your DNA chain. And so you're always going to have these people who just stand up. Now, and of course, these people are very loud, very vocal, and they have a lot of airtime. And so that's why they're able to do what they do. But it doesn't necessarily mean that they're competent. It doesn't mean that they know what they're doing, right? Let me talk to some hiring managers out there. How many of you out there are in HR or something like that? I'm not talking about fake HR or fake R. I'm not talking about you guys, okay? Or the chicks doing Zoom meetings. No. I'm talking about you folks out there that actually do the hiring, and you're looking for this, right? You're not looking for somebody's resume. You're looking at you're doing this, and you want to know if they can actually do the goddamn job. You guys know what I'm talking about. Anybody who's ever done hiring, firing knows exactly what I'm talking about. And some of us get fooled. We hire somebody that talks a really good game. We're going to abolish the IRS and we're going to mass deportations, blah, blah, blah. They talk a really good game. But then when the rubber meets the road, you find out that, dude, these guys have no clue what they're doing. As a restaurant owner, I did that. I had a guy come in and tell me, he gave me this huge story about all the stuff he'd done and how much he knew about, dough and everything, because pizza dough, all that kind of stuff. And I set him to it, and I watched him, and the guy was completely lost. He had no clue what he was doing, no idea how any of it worked. And I'm like, dude, I mean, I'm not even mad. I'm just like, why would you try to do something like this? To fake it until you make it. I'm not some big company that you can rely on. There's 4 people here. Right. Big companies, you can get away with stuff like that. You can do the fake it till you make it when you have like 40,000 employees, and you can just kind of watch everybody and just sort of keep your head down, your mouth shut, and go along to get along. When you go to a company that has like 4 people, you're going to be found out for the fraud you are very quickly. And people who've done hiring, firing, you know what I'm talking about. You spot it very quickly. If they tell you this crazy story, and then you're like, dude, you have no idea what you're doing, do you? And it's, like I said, everybody gets their start from someplace, but that takes an ability to actually say, okay, hold on, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not very confident about this. If you want to show me something, great. But if you don't want, you know, like you know what I mean? And you have to be willing to humble yourself to do something like that. And there's a lot of people that won't do that now. Somehow they all get themselves into leadership positions, not just leadership positions, but like, you know, billionaire status, you know, fake billionaire status leadership positions. It's ridiculous. I said this a while back on a video. I just pointed this out where I'm like, you know, real leaders don't really need you. They may want you. They may want you to be a part of their program because they're like, yeah, hey, I mean, you would be a really good asset. But they don't need you. A real leader's going to go, okay, well, I mean, look, hey, like, this is what we're doing. This is our program. If you want to go along with the program, great. If you don't want to, then I'm not going to force you. You can go do your own thing. That's real leadership. Fake leadership like you have right now is go along with all of our stuff or else. We're going to send pigs. We're going to send pigs and gang members after you. What do you mean gang members? Yeah, pigs, gang members, you know. That's it. No one will define what a gang is. You want to shut down court proceedings, by the way? Ask the lawyers to define what a gang is during jury selection. Shut the whole thing down. I mean, it does. And I know this from personal experience. My wife was on jury duty. I don't tell this story very often. My wife was on jury duty. And they kept saying, she was on the final selection. And they kept saying, the attorney kept saying gang this and gang that and gang related and on and on and on. And she raised her hand and she says, you know, hey, I have a question. What exactly is a gang? She'd been hanging around me too much. And it shut everything down. You know, the defense attorney, his ears perked up and went, what is a gang? You know, counselor, prosecutor, let's go ahead and define that on and for the official record. Let's go ahead and define what that is. I'm serious. I mean, like, it was stones that the way she laid the story, she's like, you could have heard a pin drop. No, like, nobody knew where to go with that question because it would completely destroy their case. Well, yeah, of course, because nobody wants to define that. It's just like you start trying to get people to define the words that come pouring out of their cunt mouths all the time. And dude, people rapidly run out of excuses. Their bullshit comes to an end very quickly as soon as you start getting them to define the words that come pouring out of their mouths all the fucking time. So, just thought I'd relay all that.